Hi guys, it's Carrie-Anne from the Science Booth and I've been looking forward to this one for the whole month. Today we are going to be dissecting a chicken wing because we are thinking about the skeletal system and the muscular system, and we're going to be comparing a chicken wing to our own arm. Okay, so I'm just going to pull the camera down so you can see what I can see. Excellent. Welcome to my chicken wing. I'm just going to move things a little bit so you can see everything. Move that out of the way a little bit. Might rotate that a little bit. Excellent, that's better. Right, here we go. So we've got our chicken wing. Now, for this experiment, you are going to need a chicken wing. I recommend a sharp knife, or if you can get hold of one, a scalpel, and a sharp pair of scissors. I definitely recommend your grown-ups help and a bit of time and a bit of patience. I think this is going to take you at least half an hour, and you might get stuck in and do even more. I'll just move that a little bit out of the way of the shadow. Excellent. So I said we're going to compare the chicken wing to our own body. So before you start cutting into this and exploring, let's have a little think about the chicken wing and how it can compare to our body. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to have a look here. Now this is just from a regular supermarket. We've not gone to the butcher's even, we've just got a bag of chicken wings. And the first thing I can notice is if I go to the top here, I can find this nice shiny white top of the bone. And the reason it's so shiny and smooth is actually it's covered in a protective layer of cartilage. Now this is probably the shoulder joint. So if you think about where your shoulder is on your body, this is where your arm would join your shoulder. And if we just turn this back down, this would be the top of your arm. This would be your forearm. And instead of a little wing on the end, we've got our hands, haven't we? Our hands and our fingers. So top of the arm, forearm, and this would be the equivalent of our hands and fingers. Okay, so a couple of notes about safety and things before we get started. Obviously, we're handling raw chicken. If you've seen my dissections before, you know that I don't wear gloves. And the reason for this is I find the gloves quite awkward and I can't really do things with them on. So as long as you're washing your hands really well afterwards, I don't see any need for gloves unless you've got a particularly nasty cut on your hand. You are going to be using sharp things, or your grown-ups are going to be helping you use sharp things. So just take care with that. So at the end of this experiment, you need to give your hands a good wash. You need to dispose of all the chicken meat, and you need to give all your instruments a really good wash too. I don't like wasting things, but I would say you're probably not going to be able to eat this chicken afterwards because it's probably going to take you that long to do everything that it'll have been at room temperature for quite some time. So once you've had a little bit of an explore of your chicken wing, our first job is to chop the skin off. Now I'm not going to be able to do all of this whilst you're watching. It took me at least 10 minutes. So I'm just going to give you a few hints and tips, and then you can have a little go. Now you might be able to just kind of pull some of the skin off. Sometimes the skin comes off really easily. So you can see here, actually getting the skin off really easily. Other tips, this bit here, it's a bit like this bit here on your thumb. It's just mainly skin. So you can actually cut into that bit as well. Let's have a little look at that. So you can actually cut in to that. That's excellent. And you can start removing the skin. And what you want to do is you want to try and keep it quite shallow. We don't want to be cutting any of the muscle off. So any of the meat we don't want to be cutting off, but you can be starting to pull that away there, and you can see we're starting to get literally underneath the skin. Okay, so this will probably take you a good 10 minutes. I actually found the best and easiest way of doing it was to kind of lift the skin up and start using the scalpel to kind of cut away. Now, if you've not got a scalpel, this will probably work with a sharp knife as well. But you just want to be teasing the skin away. I'm just trying to pull that away from the chicken meat and just keep working at it. It's worth taking your time. I've just got my finger under there and remove some of the skin. It's worth taking your time because you'll get a better outcome in the end. But you can see if you kind of start teasing the skin and just cutting little sections away, it starts to come off really, really well. Okay, so do your best to remove as much of the skin as possible. And actually it kind of feels like being a doctor, because doctors, or rather surgeons, have to cut away skin to do operations. And you can see under here, I can already see muscle and bones, but I'm going to go full on Blue Peter style and get you one I prepared earlier. But you should be able to remove most of the skin. So I'm going to bring you my next little model across. Here we go. So here's one I have prepared earlier. And you can only do so much, okay? Some of the skin's really hard to get off, like these bits under here and some of the stuff on the wing. But just do your best to get as much skin off as possible and take your time, okay? Once you've got to this point, before you start going crazy poking at the muscles, just have a look, have an observe and see what you can see. Can you recognise any of the parts of the chicken? Do you know what any of the bits are? The bit that I found fascinating is that some of the blood vessels are still in. So if I just get my pointy stick, okay, you can see here this dark red line. That's one of the blood vessels. And if you get up close and personal with it, you can actually still squish and move the blood around. You might even see some blood vessels elsewhere, but that one, hold on, let me just get under that one's really good. Look at that. Excellent blood vessel. So yeah, we can see blood vessels. Have a good look around. Have a think about how the muscles are maybe attached to each other and how they're maybe attached to the bone. So you can see some of the bone under here. Okay, so if we're thinking back to our arm, just a little reminder, this is the top of our arm, this is the forearm, this is like the wrist, this is the elbow, and this would be your hand. But obviously on the chicken, it's a wing. Now we're not going to focus on all the bones and all the muscles, we're just going to focus on some of the main ones, okay? Now on your arm, you might know some of the muscles already. We've got our biceps and we've got our triceps. And the cool thing is, I'm just going to turn this around because it's going to make it easier for me to do this. The cool thing is, if you pull on the bicep, you can actually make the little chicken wave. Hello. So I'm pulling on the bicep, and that is actually moving the rest of the chicken wing. So you pull on that bicep, that is amazing. Okay, and when you pull on the bicep, you might not be able to see that very well from here, but you're actually lengthening the tricep as well, and muscles work in what we call antagonistic pairs. So when this one contracts, this one relaxes. So when this one contracts, it pulls the chicken arm up, and then when this one contracts, it pulls the chicken arm back down. It's hard to see without me holding it up. So bicep contracts, tricep contracts, and honestly, this would keep me entertained for hours. So you can have a little play, pulling on the bicep and pulling on the tricep, and you should, if everything stayed intact, you should be able to make your chicken wing move. Why are the bicep and the tricep called the bicep and the tricep? Let's have a little look. I don't know how much I've damaged these, maybe not too bad. Well, the bicep is made up of two sort of sections, 1, 2, and you might know that the word bi means bicycle, and there's 2 muscles here. So 1, 2, and the tricep, not as easy to see because it's a little bit messy around here, but the tricep is made of 1, 2, sort of 3 sections of muscle. So that's why we get the bicep and the tricep. So that's really cool. So have a really good look at the muscles. You might be able to spot maybe some tendons or ligaments. I think one of the best places to spot a tendon is if you go down the middle of the bicep, kind of where it goes into the arm bone, you might see a bit of white connective tissue. You can sort of see a little silver line that runs all the way down, and then it goes into the middle here. Okay, and this is a tendon. Now tendons connect muscles to bones. So when this bicep contracted earlier, I'll try and move it the other way around. When this bicep contracted, I can't do it now. It pulled, there we go, I was that way around, wasn't I? It pulled the chicken arm up, and that's because of this tendon here. Right, so once you've had a little explore at the muscles to see what moves what and had a little poke around, you might then want to get a little bit closer and get in and see the bones. So your next job will be to remove the muscles. And just like the skin, it's probably going to take you a little while, but then you can do that next. So again, you can use your sharp knife, you can use scissors, make sure you're getting your grown-up to help you, but you can cut all the meat off. So all the meat, if you're a meat eater, all the meat that we eat is actually muscles, and you can see there brilliantly actually. That muscle that I've just pulled off the forearm, you can see the tendon really well there. That's really cool, and that's going to be connected to that bone there. Okay, so you can just start kind of chopping away. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. You can see the tendon really well there now actually. So if you're looking at this, have a really good explore when you're pulling it apart, and it's crazy how strong they are. It's a really sort of fibrous material, a fibrous tissue. And then yeah, you just want to start getting rid of as much of the meat as possible. So I'll just get rid of the bicep, and then again I'll go to the one I've prepared earlier. But you can see the blood vessel there in that one. I've just cut right through it actually. But you can start chopping these off and getting through. So you can see you can pull big chunks of meat off, and you want to do that until you can see the bones. So I'm gonna go and get my earlier prepared one. You can see now it's looking quite different to when we first started off. So let's just reacquaint ourselves. We had the shoulder joint here. That's a ball and socket joint that would sit in your shoulder. We've got a bone here, 2 bones here, and then our hand. Top of the arm, elbow, forearm, that would be our wrist, and our hand if this was a human. Okay, so that's really cool. Now we may as well name a few of the bones whilst we're here. Okay, so this one would be the humerus, and some people say that your elbow is called the funny bone. Well, that's quite humorous, isn't it? So this is our humerus. It's quite a strong bone. And then here we've got 2 bones in our forearm. Okay, we've got a thicker one and we've got a thinner one. Now the thinner one is called the radius, and the thicker one at the bottom is called the ulna. Okay, so there we go. And you might even, at this point, you might be able to see some ligaments. So all this is kind of joined together with lots of connective tissue. Okay, so you can see these bones, I'm giving them a wiggle, but they're all kind of stuck together. And the thing that holds bone to bone are ligaments. So they're attached from one bone to another bone. And you can see that that would be our elbow joint. That's really exciting. Now I'm going to see if I can break through this. I'm going to just use my strength. You might have to get a grown-up to help with that bit. Okay, I'm going to twist that and just have a little look in there. So you can see, I'll just try and hold that up. You can see here we've got our 2 bones. We've got the radius coming up here and the ulna. And you can see they actually fit together really quite nicely with the humerus. And you've got all that sort of connective tissue, all that cartilage in there. Okay, so you can even pull it apart if you like. I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to. Let's try. Gosh, it makes you realise just how strong everything is. And you can see here now the cartilage in between. You can see it really, really well. So we've got the end of the, we've got the end of the humerus, and it's so smooth and soft, and that's still got cartilage on. We've got more cartilage here, and you can see that kind of fits in a bit like a jigsaw. It sits on really nicely, sits on there, okay? And that cartilage then sits on top of the other bones, and this cartilage is what stops our bones from rubbing together. That's really amazing. Look at that. That's so cool. And the last thing you can try and do, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Let me just give my hands a little clean because they're very slippy and slidey now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, but if you've got a strong enough pair of scissors, you can then try and cut through. I'd recommend trying to cut through the radius because it's the thinnest of these bones. I'm going to give this a little go here. I'll try. There we go. Excellent. Oh, brilliant. So I've cut through the radius, and you might not be able to see this very well on the camera, but we can actually see into the bone marrow, the center of the bone. So hopefully, if you have a little think about your bones, they're not they're not completely solid. You can see it on both of them actually. I'll try and hold that in a better position. So you can see on the tops here, it looks kind of red. That's the bone marrow in the center of the bones. And the bone marrow is really important, and it actually does loads of important things. The most important thing I think it does is it's the place where new blood cells are made, both red blood cells and white blood cells. So you can even split it in half and have a little look at that as well. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, I do eat meat, and I've eaten plenty of chicken wings in my time, but I never even began to think that actually they could be as interesting as this, and how many comparisons we can make to our own body. The actual structure of this is so similar to our body. So just a little recap. We've got our humerus, that would be our shoulder joint here, our ball and socket joint. We've got the humerus, the elbow that joins on to our other two bones, the radius, which I've split in half now, and the ulnar, and that would be our wrist to our hand. So guys, I'm really excited about this one. We've not done a dissection for a little while, so I'm really excited for you guys to go and have a go at this and have a real good explore of the chicken wing and learn a little bit more about our muscular system and a little bit more about our skeletal system. I hope you have an absolute science adventure, and I'll see you guys very soon.